Hello, on this 28th day of January. And wow, what a week it's been with very strong gusts of wind. But at least we haven't got the sub-zero temperatures that Texas is experiencing at the moment. I'm very much of the idea that this wind, when you get these sudden gusts, does contain a disembodied evil spirit. It's like a mischievous child. It will go through and it'll upturn things and try and destroy structures and things like that. Certainly the Portuguese way in this part of Portugal, in the Algarve, is like, don't bother clearing anything up because a week later you're going to have to do it again because of the way this wind is. But it's balanced out because the last 3 days the forecast has shown nothing but cloud and rain, and yet I've managed to manifest some blue sky and some sunshine, and the worst of the weather has been overnight, and it's not really had an effect. It is like a small child having a temper tantrum, not getting its own way. And of course it is feeding off of the low vibration energy of the human collective, because they will keep looking at all these stories and then they're feeling certain things they're importing into themselves in feelings. That's a very poor diet of mind food, and it's done for distraction. The actual topic I wanted to talk about, following on this theme of going back to source, is going back to source when it comes to these physical vehicles, these avatars that we find ourselves in. Now, I was fortunate that this landed in my lap. I was sent this video. It's Dr. Jack Kruse. And what he lays out about food, it is about going back to source. So what is the source of food? Surely it is the seed. That will depend on the terms and conditions, like everything else in this reality, the quality of the soil, but more than that, the quality of the hydrogen within that food. And I totally agree with the conclusions of this. It's not about going on any particular diets, be it vegan, fruitarian, pescatarian, or whatever. Because that's not going back to source. That's following exactly the same pattern as the way religions go, how they splinter and create a sort of almost like a picture of a tree with little branches coming off. Just think about the umbrella term of Christianity, and you've got evangelists and Baptists and you name it, the whole spectrum. And it's the same with food, but it misses the point of going back to source. And the conclusions are, it's the hydrogen quality in the food. Is it getting a source of natural water? Because it's about going back to source. So where is the water source coming from? And what about the light source for that food? If it's being artificially grown under lights, it's not natural. The key to this is to go the most natural way and go back to source. So how would you measure the quality of the hydrogen in food would probably be a question that comes from this. Well, another little sidebar with food is when we start talking about vitamins, energy values, and all these type of things. Just ask yourself, who funded that research and who came up with these classifications for this food? Where would you get the equipment to test the hydrogen of anything? Most things, it seems to be, you would have to go to a university, because these devices for measuring things are so expensive that people can't afford to buy them for themselves. telescopes are a perfect example of that. Think of the real big observatory ones, how many people individually could buy a telescope like that. And it's the same with all scientific equipment. You'd end up having to go approach a local university, and then you'd be asked a lot of questions as why you want the equipment. You're not going to be able to do it unsupervised either. So that's not the route to get to source when it comes to finding out the hydrogen quality. The way to do it follows on from going back to source in the spiritual sense via the higher self to source. Now, the body will always tell on the mind. So it's about learning that internal language. You may have it as you get a craving for a particular type of food. Now, you have to be careful here as to what the mind interprets from that. You don't want to be like going for any food that is just going to fill you up to take away hunger. It has to have the goodness in it. Food is very much following the pattern of politics in that it is national, it is local, it is regional, and it is very racial as well. So if you're in Northern Europe in the winter, there's no point eating things like pineapples that grow in the tropics. You've also got, as well as the transportation of that food, and the way the world is, that food is grown for sale value and shelf life value, not for goodness. You're far better off going for local produce that is seasonal and grown as naturally as possible, and allow your intuition to guide you on that. That is where you will find the real connection to find out the quality of the hydrogen. It was several years ago on the old channel, I did a video where I did a breakdown on the etymology of the word hydrogen. It's the first element on the periodic table for a start. So it's going back to source. So it's number 1. And it is the building block to which everything else is created in this reality. These physical bodies are made out of the same materials of everything about this reality. They are a vehicle to move about in this reality. It's not about any particular diet. You're far better off going for seasonal and local, because you have another factor that comes into this with the transporting of food, and that is the magnetics in various points in the earth, which is going to affect that food. If you're in a winter climate and you're eating tropical food, you're also sending the wrong signals to the body as well. So is there really any point in eating pineapples and bananas in the winter in Northern Europe? Go for things that are local and seasonal, things that are grown naturally. That is the key in the going back to source when it comes to the physical food for the physical body. So I'm going to put a link in the description to this Dr. Jack Kruse video on light is the most important thing about food. That to me makes perfect sense, and the divine timing that I was sent this video and I watched it and I thought, yeah, this is the missing part. It's about going back to source. It's right across the spectrum. It's finding out who you are. By finding out who you are, you also learn that language of internal dialogue within yourself. The body is now not going to be working against you. The lower conscious mind is not going to be working against you. You will all be on the same page within yourself. You will be unified as a U-Inverse, a universe inside yourself. That will guide you to the best quality food that you can get. Avoid things that are coming from halfway around the world. Like if you're in the UK, why do you want apples coming from New Zealand when apples do grow in the UK? All these type of things, there's so many variables that are going to come into this that are going to affect the goodness that you're going to get out of the food. But it's no good referring to all these different scientific things on vitamins and how many kilojoules of energy. That's just outplay ends, because there are other factors in this. It's no different for if you're listening to the research that was conducted by the egg industry that tells you eggs are good for you. That will be a half truth, of course, because it's the process that comes into play with this. It's not just whether eggs are good for you. There's so many other factors on top of this. Take, for example, North America, with the stories we're told of the tribes that would hunt bison. They would use the whole animal. They would not be bred purely for their coat or for the flesh to consume. But now it's been corporatized and become very machine-like. So it's totally altered the magnetism, the interaction. These physical bodies are part of this earth. It's not about being vegan or vegetarian and not eating meat. These physical bodies are very well programmed to discard what is not required by the body, and it is expelled. It's the quality of the hydrogen. Now, going back to the etymology, it's the hidden red one. You've got the hydra, then you've got the Rogan and the generate. So it's, or the hide is it's the hidden. It's something in the blood. That is where the life is. An example of this is what Rudolf Steiner said: when a fetus is first formed, before the organ which becomes the heart is formed, that blood is already circulating. So how can the heart be a pump, is another question that comes out of that. That's another misnomer. It's actually like a double vortex, and it works as a valve. It will open when you need that blood to circulate faster. So if you were suddenly plunged into cold water, that valve would open right up to get that blood circulating round as quick as possible to keep all the organs warm, because the blood is the life. So you might as well throw away every notion of what is the best diet. It's no different from a particular religion saying we worship the true God. It's the same pattern. So hopefully I've got this point across, because this is very much the theme of these videos. It's about going back to source. And as I go deeper and deeper into this, I'm going to reveal a lot of things that I will probably be best not to actually post on YouTube, and they will be exclusively on Archaix Underground. You've got the option of a week's free trial to see if it suits you. But it does require you to go in to these things open, not when you're presented with a new bit of information of getting the egoic defense come up. Because nobody likes to feel that they've been fooled. But if you stop and think about this critically, have we not all been fooled one way or another? So there's that feeling of isolation comes with this. I don't like the feeling that I may have been fooled about what I've been told as true. It's the same pattern you'll get with depression. If you go through depression, it feels like it's only happening to you, but it's not. Depression is built in within these physical bodies as well. A lot of the things I'm going to be saying in future videos are probably going to be a bit of a shock as to what SA is good and to which you probably think are bad things. But the difference is, once you go back to source and you see things from the immortal perspective rather than the mortal perspective, there comes this realization of, firstly, there is nothing you don't already know. Secondly, that everything that is played out in this physical reality actually does make sense. I know it doesn't seem to, but That's because most of the time we're looking at the outplay end of things and we're not going back to the source of where it originally came from and what is the purpose of it. So I refer you back to the previous video on going back to source to find out who you truly are, but also apply that same pattern to your intake of mind food as much as the physical food for the physical body, because these things will affect you, and more often than not can be in a very negative way. If something is instant and convenient, generally in this photo negative reality, it doesn't save you time, it shortens your time of your physical avatar. These physical avatars are essentially like a battery. They start off with a full charge. Now, to a certain degree, you can recharge with putting in the right things into the physical body, but they are, like everything else in this reality, they are finite. But it comes down to taking the most natural route, because these physical bodies are part of the nature of this reality. They are made up of the ingredients that are in this reality. So again, it's not about any particular diet. Don't eat this, don't eat that. There are certain things I would suggest that you don't eat. That would be the bottom feeders, the insects of the oceans like prawns and the things that eat the crap, basically off the seabed floor. And pigs are another one I would definitely say avoid. Pork. And although it's not really a food, but it is something we can ingest, I would also say avoid alcohol. Your physical body creates its own alcohol, a very small amount to help with the digestive system, but it doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier. That's when the problems do occur. The results of that, you've only got to, well, you've probably seen it for yourself, how people behave when they're drunk, when they are under the influence. But what is it they're under the influence of? Probably the same thing in these sudden gusts of wind. Right, we're up to nearly 18 minutes. So we'll carry on with this theme, and I shall be revealing a lot more connected with this going back to source and how you can navigate your way through what looks to be a picture that's painted that is very negative, very destructive, but it doesn't have to affect you. You can overwrite this background scene and you can create a world for yourself from your inner world that is far more conducive. It does require being fearless, of course. It does require throwing away everything that you've been told that is true and going back to source and starting again. Start from scratch. Start with that solid foundation to which to build a structure. That is a fact of this physical reality. If you want to put up a building, you need to make sure you have a very solid foundation on which to build it. That pattern also exists with these physical bodies, with finding out who we are. The only way to do that is always to go back to source. So with that, I'm going to say unconditional love to you all.